If you could know the truth behind one unexplainable mystery, which one would you choose? I want to know if Larry Hillblom, the H in DHL, actually died in that plane crash? Or if he lived on with his facial reconstruction to avoid consequences. Dude survives a plane crash in '93. Has facial reconstruction. Plane goes down again in '95. His body is never recovered. But his pilot and co-workers are. Multiple underage rape accusations across Asia. Investigators show up to his house and it is found completely scrubbed with acid, destroying any traces of DNA. All personal items removed and found buried in the backyard. Crazy. But I believe it was planned and he lived. All the human history of civilization before recorded history. Most of human history is lost to time. I used to think I would want to know who Zodiac or Jack the Ripper was. Now I think I would want to know who the Sea People were. Supposedly the Iliad and Odyssey were part of a much larger series of stories lost to time. So that, I want the rest of those stories. I'd probably go with something that has always fascinated me. The origins of consciousness. Why do we have subjective experiences? Why do we have thoughts, emotions, and self-awareness? It's one of those ultimate mysteries that cuts across science, philosophy, and even spirituality. Despite all our advancements in neuroscience and psychology, we still don't fully understand what consciousness actually is, or how it arises from the brain. Is there anyone out there? If language evolved once before humans spread out, or if it evolved many times in different areas, I really want to know if proto-world existed. What's the most absurd fact that sounds fake but is actually true? Out of all the animals in the world, the most successful hunter by far, with a stunning success rate of 95%, is the dragonfly. Found this out while working at a vet clinic. A sloth takes so long to digest food that it can starve to death on a full stomach. Nature is just weird sometimes. Mazda has had the two most oddly specific product recalls in automotive history. 1. They had to recall a bunch of Mazda 6s because spiders kept infesting the fuel lines. For whatever reason, this problem was limited to one model, and only one generation of that model. Spiders didn't fuck with any of their other cars. 2. They had to recall a bunch of other cars because the infotainment system would break whenever users tried to listen to 94.9 KUOW radio in Seattle. It wasn't the wavelength. Stations on 94.9 in other cities were totally fine. This problem was specific to KUOW. Maybe very specific, but the online space simulation game Elite Dangerous contains a mostly accurate simulation of our galaxy. The game was released in 2014 and so far players have explored 85 million star systems, which amounts to 0.02% of the galaxy. There's a species of jellyfish called Turritopsis dohrnii, also known as the immortal jellyfish. I had to Google the name lol. That can literally reverse its aging process. When it's injured, sick, or even just stressed, it reverts its cells back to their earliest form, essentially starting its life over again. It's like the creature figured out how to cheat death, hitting the reset button on its existence. Crazy emo. Egypt is older than a lot of people realize. There were archaeologists in ancient Egypt. At one point, in Hawaii, you were more likely to get attacked by Ezra Miller than a shark. All the planets in the solar system, even Pluto, could fit between Earth and the Moon. When the Moon is in the farthest point in its orbit. What's your fucked around and found out story? Got mad at my family. Left the house saying I can make my own money. Then got homeless and called them again to move back in. When I was a welder, we had a lot of people who thought using any kind of PPE was feminine, from old guys to brand new 18-year-olds. One day a guy was using the squint method to do a vertical weld and managed to splash some of the molten metal into his eyes. He's blind now, and due to not using the PPE provided, he wasn't able to get workers' compensation or sue the corporation. When I was a bouncer, there was a small scuffle at the bar and I went to go steaming in. Workmate tells me to slow down. I don't listen. Ended up the guy fighting played for Leicester Tigers rugby, and he absolutely manhandled me like I was a small child. I found out when I was 13, a friend and I hopped onto a slow-moving freight train for kid reasons. Then we took a 7-hour ride through nowhere before it slowed down again. Mom was pissed about that phone call. Tried to microwave a hard-boiled egg to warm it up, and it exploded in my face the second I touched it. My kitchen smelled like betrayal for a week. Put my finger on a hot car cigarette lighter. I didn't think it was hot because it wasn't red. It was white. By the way, this was like 45 years ago. One day while I was driving down the road, I was punching my windshield lightly because it was making a funny sound. My buddy in the passenger seat: "You're going to crack your windshield." Me: "No, I won't." Windshield punch windshield. Crack. Me. Quote, quote, quote. Walking down the sidewalk in NYC with my wife, I saw a banana peel on the ground and was like, why do they always show people slipping on these? How slippery can they be? I then proceeded to put all my weight on it, and totally did the legs flying up in the air landing on my butt thing like you see in cartoons. I look up and my wife was rolling her eyes to the point that I think she was seriously wondering how she married me. If you wake up in 2014, what you gonna do? Betting on the Germany vs Brazil World Cup match. Buy as much Bitcoin as I can. Party rock. Watch Interstellar in theaters when it originally came out. Tell myself what I needed to know to maybe save my wife's life. Go fishing with my grandpa. Save the gorilla. My dad passed in 2021 due to Alzheimer's. His mental decline started around 2015. If I had the chance to go back to 2014, I would tell him how much I loved him and how lucky I was to have him as my dad. Rip Daddy. Rip Daddy.